Runeterrable.
Yes, Benji. Okay, I hit the button, so we can do the thing whenever.
Sweet.
I don't even. Did we have the song back then?
Ooh, I don't know, Swim. Was the last time you were on? Was it pre-intro?
It might have been.
I don't remember an intro song, but it was also
my
long enough
God.
ago that I don't remember anything at all.
Yeah,
that's true though.
Me
That's true.
either. Well, I mean, I guess we're just gonna do this then, and maybe you'll remember if you've heard the intro song or not. I don't know. Although I have to. Sometimes it just sneaks up on you.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it just is there and you don't expect it.
Yeah. Sometimes it just like in the middle of your sentence, it'll just like. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Runeterrable Radio. I am Blevins. With me, as always, is Saucy Mailman. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, my friend?
Oh, all sorts of stuff. As we have we were talking about this, one of our earlier guests returning, the legendary Swimstrim. What's up, buddy?
Hello, boys.
What's going on? It's going good, dude.
Hey there, big boy. I don't know why I went there with that, but this is.
Hey there, big
I'm
boy.
just setting the tone for the rest of this episode, because we're just gonna have a little bit of fun with it. I've got our show notes, which have a whopping, I think, 2 lines of actual content in them, and a link to the Mobalytics page with all the new cards, because that's what we're gonna be talking about.
Yeah.
So happy to have you back on, Swim.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's good timing. I love being able to talk about, all these new cards, theorying out the meta and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's gonna be super fun to do that, and we will be doing that for most of the show. But I just got a little bit of housekeeping because this is a special episode, not only because Swim is here, but also because Riot Games and the Runeterra team have been gracious enough to give us 5 coin bundles to give away. So if you're listening to this live, stick around after the episode on Saucy's stream for a chance to get those, and huge shout outs to Riot for that, and promoting the community and making this feel like a cool thing on the road to the seasonal. And speaking of the seasonal, I'm a pro here. I'm setting myself up with segues.
Smooth transition.
Yeah.
Ooh, smooth. It's like I've been doing this 63 episodes. Swim and I are going to be on the broadcast for the seasonal playoffs this weekend, which is pretty cool. Swim, this is not your first one, but it's the first one that we're both going to be on, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a pretty interesting seasonal. I actually expect there will be some surprisingly spicy lineups. We'll see.
Yeah, Casanova and I, because Casa is also going to be on the broadcast. We interviewed a couple of the players, sort of not off the record, but non-recorded interviews, just to get some context, and we got some interesting perspectives and some really cool stories that you're definitely going to want to check out the broadcast for on Saturday, so make sure you're checking that out. But all right, none of this pretense. No one cares about what I'm doing this weekend. Let's talk about some new cards, Saucy.
It's funny. This is like the most exciting time. If you're a card game player, these are the times that are exciting, because right now things are a little boring and stale in the meta this specific week, because
it's the lame duck meta, right?
Exactly. We know next week, literally, we get all this new stuff to play with, and then we have this weekend with the big, competitive play with the seasonals going right into new cards. So like leading up to that, it's just like, how many times can I play against Thresh Nasus in a week? Like, so I'm excited for new stuff. I'm so ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I figured out a name for the Thresh Nasus deck. Skarzak and I came up with the name on the Swiss broadcast. We're calling it Sleigh Ride.
Oh, okay, all right, that's cute. That's cute.
Because there's like sleigh trigger. Anyone?
Oh well, now it's not. Since you explained it, now
I explained it. Now no one gets it. But.
Yep.
Should we just start at the beginning, or do it? Yeah, let's just. I mean, we got We got time. Let's talk
Yeah,
about
let's-
it all. Screw it.
Let's talk about some stuff. I mean, we haven't gotten a ton of stuff yet, so I think we've only gotten one new card, right? And that's Chip.
Yeah, Chip is the only new card
Oh
to
my
talk
God.
about. Let's talk about that for about an hour here.
Yeah.
So we're talking about all of them, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, let's
all of
go.
them that have been officially revealed.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, there's so much to break down.
All right, Swim, let's go. Start it off.
Oh, I mean, right off the bat with Chip, you know, I mean, since you guys, unless we're doing these in a specific order,
No.
Go wherever.
everyone loves Chip. He's nuts. He's a cute little rock boy. Presumably Malphite will be his big rock brother. You know, I mean, he's cute. I mean, the thing is, what else is there to say? We haven't seen Malphite, so we have no idea how this synergy is even gonna play.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's Bark Beast, right? He's Targon. He's the landmark Bark Beast. Landmark Beast. There we go. No, Chip is better. He's too cute to be a beast. But I mean, Bark Beast is a card that sees a good amount of play in the deck that is built around, not around him specifically, but that he synergizes with. So theoretically, maybe we could see Chip, I mean, make a dent in the meta, or at least be in a meta deck potentially.
It's very possible. Conditional 1-mana 3/3s have a great track record, as Jagged Butcher is also
Yeah.
pretty sweet.
I'm dating myself here, but anyone remember Wild Nicodle? That's a
Yeah.
good old Shards of Alara.
It's a good card, though.
Only
It's
boomers
just a good
remember
card.
Wild
True,
Nicodle.
though.
And
True.
we've also we can talk about some of the more boring. Well, they're boring now, but who we don't know what they.
I
don't know
know,
what
we
they're
started
doing.
with the best one,
Yeah.
so it's all downhill, but that's
yeah.
fine.
Blade, 1-mana 1/1, obliterate me when I leave combat. Non-collectible card.
Yep, and the artwork hinting at a potential champion, Irelia. I'm sure no one has been thinking
I
that.
don't even think it's a potential at this point. I mean,
We're
she's
getting
literally
Irelia?
in the art of the card.
Just shh, don't tell anyone. Shh. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
As we saw in the
heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, you heard it here first, not from the preview video that had Irelia in it that Riot put out.
Yeah.
You know, I really like Blade. I mean, obviously, it's not a real card, but I like the hint that Blade is giving us to what Irelia might do when we get Irelia. Because, I mean, there's one of a couple ways this will work. Either this is a card that just gets purely generated on attacks, or it's something that you can kind of like collect and block with. But I think the former is more likely.
Well, yeah, because the first thing is, and you bring up a good point. The first thing is like, well, why didn't they just give this ephemeral, right? Because this is kind of what ephemeral is.
Exactly. And here's my theory.
Okay.
I think the reason they didn't give this ephemeral is because Irelia is going to summon a lot of blades, and they didn't want it to be too crazy with some of like the death triggers, like Prankster or any of that. So I think Irelia might actually be something along the lines of summon 6 blades when I attack. Because I know that in League of Legends she has like 6 blades.
Gotcha.
That's my prediction. Attack, remove me from combat, summon 6 attacking blades.
Now that could be interesting. It could also be really bad depending on what she is, and because like that's your whole attack. I don't know.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a slower, like she doesn't fight herself, but she sends the blades out for her in like a passive way.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, this is all prefaced with, of course, like
we don't know what
she does.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pulling this out of my ass, but I mean, it does make sense, right? You know, a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
I think it's going to be, if that's the case, the actual combo that everyone should be afraid of is obviously Irelia Von Yip.
Oh yeah,
big blades. They've turned into swords.
They've turned
into
swords. Yeah, I mean, if there's a lot of swords attacking, that would actually be pretty insane. Some cards that we've got a little bit more context to now that we've actually seen Zillion, right? Clockwork, Curator, Preservationist, these sort of advanced allied landmark cards playing into the Zillion sort of time bomb strategy. Swim, I know you've obviously talked about these on your stream, but have you put any thought into this sort of advancing landmark?
Absolutely. I just enough to decide I won't be doing it. It's I was preservationist. Okay. Preservationist. Even in a deck that wants to advance landmarks, I think that Clockwork Curator might have a chance if you had enough of a reason to. Preservationist, probably not at those numbers.
Right.
However, I will say, I mean, if there's a big reason to take advancements, so another one of my theories, I mean, while we're here,
might as well, yeah.
I'm also speculating what Malphite's going to be doing.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't know exactly whether this will be Malphite or maybe just some landmark in Targon, but I think Malphite might himself start as a landmark in his level 1 form. Yeah, because he's a big rock.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, he's a big old rock boy.
So, imagine this. Malphite was a landmark, maybe 3 or 4 mana, who knows? But he would be countdown 20 or 25 or something, and then he levels up and turns into a big Nautilus-esque win condition. Right. He's like a huge boy.
Well, it's funny because I'm not the biggest LORE person, the lore person. So I'm learning a lot of this as I'm going on. I didn't realize that Malphite is canonically a giant, literally a mountain, like we saw in that the trailer video. He's gigantic, because in League of Legends he's just the size of a normal champion. So I'm like, oh, this is just a rock guy that is roughly humanoid size. No, he's a fucking mountain.
Exactly. And I think they're gonna want to drive that home,
right? Which would be interesting.
Because we were having a discussion, someone who actually is an LORE, a lore master, was talking about, in one of the early builds of League of Legends, they tried to have it to have scale for the champion, so you could tell how tall, because some of these people are gigantic, Nasus and all of them are huge. Yeah, they're just gigantic, and but the scale was disconcerting, it was difficult to look at. So yeah, same thing. I've played him in League. I'm like, all right, Malphite's a big dude, but then it's in the trailer, oh crap, he's actually just a big ass mountain. He is just a big mountain boy. Yeah. He's got big Valakut vibes.
Oh, Valakut. There's a name I didn't think I'd hear.
Check this out. This is my, again, ass pulled prediction.
Let's hear
but this would be pretty cool. So Malphite, you have to build your entire deck around advancing, because it'll be big countdown. And then, if he was basically 1 attack, win the game, so 20 or 30 attack, Pursuit of Perfection levels.
Yeah.
But instead of having Overwhelm, he has attack, stun the entire enemy row. Kind of like Malphite ults in League of Legends.
Yeah.
So it's it's just a different way compared to Overwhelm for getting stats to actually be a win condition.
The only thing that is I think that's a cool concept. The only thing that would be a little bit weird for me is that's kind of like the Watcher, right? And are we setting up for another Watcher? Oh, we just do this thing, we build around it, and then we play a thing, and then we win. Maybe we are. And I feel considering the at least some public perception of the Watcher and what people think about that, maybe I don't know. It would be interesting to see for sure.
I mean, something cool about that, if Malphite was just a big old rock boy, is that'd give us a target. There's this card in the game that not a lot of people play it, but I've seen it a couple times in this meme deck, Atrocity. So it'd give another target for that, because there aren't a lot of targets that you can use with Atrocity to win the game. So that could let us win like that too.
Yeah,
be pretty cool.
Especially not in Targon either. I mean, there's definitely not a lot of big top.
Yeah, there's not a lot of big targets, so that'd be pretty cool. I'd like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for Preservationist specifically, my bar is Bull Elnuck. If you're worse than a Bull Elnuck, you really got to impress me with your ability.
Yeah,
and,
pretty much.
Yeah,
I think the Curator, I think, is decent, especially if you are trying to advance these landmarks. I think advancing by 2 is kind of the sweet spot on the units, because a lot of the things you probably want to hit with this are going to be Preservarium. You could even Blighted Ravine, whatever. So I think that advancing by 2 is solid. For 2 mana, it's not a bad effect. 5 mana advanced by 3 for a 4/4 body is a little more rough.
Yeah, I'm not big on those. Okay, then we have sort of the imagined possibilities, which is 1 mana focus speed spell. Create a landmark with countdown in hand or advance your landmarks 1 round. I mean, it's like a lot of these create cards. It's hard. it's pretty hard to predict what they're going to be, or what their power levels are going to be when we don't know what the pool is. But also, this kind of seems like trash.
Yeah, no, this card is not going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm imagining all possibilities, and none of them have this in my deck.
Yeah.
But you can quote that here, and when it is running rampant, we can go back.
Yeah,
to this
true.
clip.
Come back and yell at us.
At me in a month when this is
I'm
dominating.
fine with that.
I'm also fine with it. I do like Time in a Bottle a little bit more, though. 2 mana, focus speed, predict, and advance an allied landmark 2 rounds. This, I think, like, to piggyback off what you said, Saucy, the advancing 2 rounds seems like a sweet spot. 2 mana is, 2 mana is 2 mana. That's fine. But it's spell mana, and you're also getting the predict as well.
Predict is good.
Which is definitely good, especially with Zillion, who we'll talk about in a second. But it also, unlike the Preservationist and the Clockwork Curator, this isn't taking up board space with just a vanilla doofus, which is a problem with some of, like, if you've ever played, Talia, or even the TLC deck, like the actual meta deck, they started running Glimpse Beyond their deck just so that they can kill their own Trundle, so there's board space to play the Watcher. Having a random 5 mana 4/4 in play is probably worse than just having nothing in play in a lot of those decks. Yeah. So I actually really like Time in a Bottle compared to those other ones. Saucy, what do you think about Time?
Yeah, I think it's an all right card. It really just depends on how good the countdown landmarks you have available are. I see these and I just think of, I always go back to Preservarium because it's like my pet card and I just love it, and I just like drawing cards. So I'm down to do this to draw an extra card real quick. It's all right. Predict is good though. I think this works probably better in a slower deck, but it's decent.
Time in a Bottle is the strongest out of all the advanced and allied landmark cards.
Yeah. Easy.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's the best out of all of them.
And yet it is a common, whereas some of the other ones are rares. Not that has ever mattered. But
the next one's an epic.
Yeah. The Clock Hand, 8 mana. Wait a second, this is a 4/7? I thought it was a 7/7. Wait.
His body is dog shit.
I thought this was an 8 mana 7/7. Wait, what the hell is this? Oh my god. Okay, 8
Weird,
mana.
isn't it?
8 mana 4/7, sure. When I'm summoned, create 2 instant sentries in hand. And those instant sentries are 0 mana focus spells. Summon a random landmark with countdown or advance a landmark 4 rounds. I mean, advancing 4 rounds could be a big thing, but you're paying 8 mana for a 4/7. I'm mauling right now.
This is Sharima's Captain Ferret. I don't know.
I mean, this is just actual trash, right? There's
so it's cards like these that make me think that there's going to be some big landmark advance payoff in Targon, because we know Targon, we're getting a bunch of Targon cards, and I'm guessing it's Malphite, but it could just be a landmark, some like big thing that it's just like countdown 20 big payoff.
Right.
And I mean, Clock Hand could at least maybe make sense in a deck like that. That one's hard to rule out since it's such a big advancement.
And I think the most redeeming thing about this, it isn't a summoned effect, so it's not a play.
True. That's true.
So if you do like Ancient Hourglass it and do crap like that, like it could be spicy. I think that's like the best line of text on the card.
Yeah, and I guess you get 2 of them, right? So even if you generated this off of Tri-Beam Improbulator, you could still like play a landmark, and they're not.
Yeah, because you can still make them.
Not fleeting either, right? Yeah. So okay. 8 mana 4/7 though. Come on, I literally thought this was a 7/7, and I was still debating. It's a 4/7. We'll talk about Time Bomb in a second when we talk about Zillion. Here's a card that has been making the rounds on Twitter, and I've seen just about every opinion of this card, including like this card is busted and they immediately need to nerf it, to this card's not even good, to this card is fine. I've heard it all, and that is rare for me to see on a card. This one is Soothsayer. 2 mana, 1/4 in Targon. When I'm summoned, grant
Sharima.
allied in Sharima. Yeah, not Targon. I'm an idiot. When I'm summoned, grant allied champions and landmarks spell shield. Where do you fall on the scale, Swim?
So yeah, I mean, I can tell you for the most part, I don't want to oversimplify because this card will be decent in some kinds of decks. For example, I'm really excited to build a Fiora Sharima deck, and Soothsayer with a mono Fiora all-in deck is pretty scary. So I mean, I think it can lead to like 1 or 2 very specific degenerate things, but for the most part, Soothsayer is being overrated. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's actually going to like make waves in terms of hitting specific decks, with the exception of maybe mono Fiora Sharima.
Everyone always forgets about Fiora until she comes back.
Until she comes back and crushes people's dreams.
And there's a couple more cards. In fact, the literal next 2 cards we're getting to in order that are both going to be pretty crazy in mono Sharima Fiora. So that'll be great.
Yeah, well, let's just talk about them. We've got Scrying Sands, 1 mana burst speed spell in Sharima. Predict and give an ally or give an enemy -2/-0 this round. That's a value card. And then Chrono Shift, which is Zillion's champion spell. 7 mana burst speed, give an allied champion the next time I die this round, fully heal me and grant me +3/+3 instead. Man, Swim, why are you giving people ideas with Fiora and this stuff? Like this is this is gonna run rampant.
I just want to say there's very few things that are certain in this world, but when there's a new exciting patch, I'm just gonna play Fiora. And I can tell you right now, that's what's gonna happen here too. Like everyone's all excited for all these new cards, and all I'm seeing is Fiora Sharima, baby. Like these cards are so perfectly positioned to turn that into an actual scary deck. And I can't wait.
Well, Fiora Sharima, Lee Sin Sharima as well, potentially. Saucy, what do you think about Scrying Sands or Soothsayer, Chrono Shift?
So as on brand as Swim making Fiora decks is, Soothsayer is the best Teemo support we've gotten in a while too. Teemo into Soothsayer, it's just great.
True.
I love it, and I've tried to make various versions of Sharima Teemo work, and it's just not there. Mostly because there's no reason to play it instead of Freljord. Like there's just no reason. So this excites me, and Soothsayer is good for that. Everyone's talking about, there's this line of text that says something about landmarks. I don't even know what that means. It should just say grant allied Teemos spell shield.
Yeah, Saucy, I remember losing to a Teemo deck of yours once, I think.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that once or twice.
Well, I mean, if you've played against Saucy in a Riot Grand Prix,
Teemo's been there.
Teemo's been there, and also you are literally the winningest Riot Grand Prix player
across all games.
Technically true is the best kind of true.
Technicalities are the best. No, I think Scrying Sands is good. Like it's a good combat trick. It's burst speed. The burst speed is what's really important. 1 mana burst speed gives something -2 attack and predict. It's great. Card's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, and all this new predict, obviously, maybe Kahiri. Is Kahiri not a meme anymore? Is Kahiri?
That's not a card. It's not a card.
Why not? But in the
people love it too much.
Reveal video, he was there, and they showed.
Because why was he there, Blevins? What was the last card they played? Atrocity. Because they needed more reasons for people to play Atrocity. Underplayed card.
True. You gotta push those old cards.
Yeah, those old cards people aren't playing.
Speaking of old cards, not old as in the age of the card, but the age of the champion in the card. Zillion, 1 mana, 2 mana, 1/4 in Sharima. Create 4 time bombs in your deck, then predict. He levels up when you've destroyed 2 allied time bombs. Leveled up, he is a 2-mana 2/5. Round start, create a fleeting copy of each non-fleeting card I saw you play last round. And when you play the leveled up version, you create 4 time bombs in your deck and then predict like the unleveled version. This card seems like it has the potential to do very broken things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like I'm personally really excited for this card myself, for this champion, just based strictly on how cool and interesting it is. Like there's so many cards, like once he's leveled up, being able to play multiples of specific cards is really fun. I think this could actually be in it, like make for an interesting like P&Z burn style deck where you're playing multiple Mystic Shots or Get Exciteds or Aftershocks or whatever. Like I think that's like he could do some interesting things with that, and he's got a good body for an early champ. Well, he's Zillion has a nice ass. He's got a 1/4 ass, so it's not bad as a 2-drop.
Wait, I'm pretty sure the last time I was on this show, I just got a flashback. I think literally the last time I was on the show, we also did this like backside joke. With
Probably
that sounds about right.
I think that's what we were doing. We were just talking about champions' backsides.
That sounds right. No, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that checks out. I also think the last time we did the show was when the gummy copy pasta happened. With like, why is this girl so mad about everything?
Yeah. Yep.
We
That was
miss
really
you,
good.
Gummy. Come back and play LOR with us, please. But this is a card that just screams like it can be broken, like it can do a degenerate thing. Like, yeah, there's a fine line between memery and actually being broken and people never wanting to play against it again. And I feel like is there something with what is stress testing? Is there a way to go infinite with stress testing where you like play stress testing to make all of the cards not fleeting anymore, and then you'll get another stress testing next turn and you can play?
Yeah, I think if you have
feel
2
like
of them,
there's
it works.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that doesn't really matter because you don't have infinite mana, but like,
Yeah.
which I guess if you did, that'd be cool. But
Yeah, but I mean, if you were to commit to something like that, I mean, all you need is a few Mystic Shots, and if you're Mystic Shotting, 2 or 3 times a turn, gets
Right.
pretty decent. Especially if you have something like an Ezreal out there.
yeah. Oh, we also didn't mention what the time bombs actually are.
Oh, yeah.
Shuffles into decks. That's actually probably pretty
That,
big.
yeah.
Oh, that's
Maybe
yeah,
the
that's
most
really
important thing about him.
Yeah.
Time bomb is a 2-mana landmark. When I'm summoned, draw 1 and advance other allied time bombs 1 round. Countdown, deal 1 to enemies and the enemy nexus. So he pings everything on the opponent's board for 1 with the time bombs, and they also replace themselves. It seems like he some champions are like very vertical, like Tom Kench Soraka, like they fit into their deck, and outside of like some memes and like we've seen like Ash Tom Kench like as a meme and some other Soraka stuff maybe, but like they fit in that one deck and they do that deck very well. Zillion feels like a champion that can fit kind of in the middle of a lot of things and like pull together different regions potentially and be like that catalyst to bringing Sharima to other regions.
Yeah, I think he's all right. It's hard to evaluate this one. I do think that he will be probably most competitive in a go hard deck with Sharima Shadow Isles. And yeah, a lot of what you'd expect. A couple of these predict cards, you'd definitely be running like Scrying Sands and stuff like that. And he fits that kind of deck perfectly because, of course, you're predicting for go hards and bombs, so it's just like a nice double dip. Sometimes he's kind of like an alt win con. Go hard style decks usually want like these kinds of like mid game alt win cons. So that'll be all right. But for the most part, Zillion feels pretty tricky to fit into most kinds of decks game plans.
Yeah, and the cost of playing him is that you have what is that card called? Vanguard Squire? No, Vanguard. What is the horn guy?
Oh, the 2 mana,
just a 2 mana 1/4 blank. Like you have to play that card, right? Granted,
Lookout.
yes, yeah, Vanguard Lookout. which is like, that is a cost, right? That is taking you're using 3 of your champion slots on Vanguard Lookout at least at some level. So I don't know. He's interesting to me. 2-mana champion, I'm always going to be intrigued by.
One thing that's I find really funny with Zilean is that his champion spell isn't great. Chrono Shift is not really a good card. Fiora is the one deck that Chrono Shift might fit into. And that's a big problem. I think a lot of people actually sort of neglect how important the champ spell is for champion viability. Like, bad champ spells are kind of a death sentence. We've had maybe one, arguably 2 champions in the entire game's meta that have been able to be good despite having a weak champ spell. And most of the champions that are bad because double drawing them feels awful. The cool thing about Zilean, though, is, of course, if you get your first Zilean killed, then you can just play the second one and you get the play effect again. So you've got 8 bombs. And the thing I love most about that, and this is really funny, is that you can use Rite of Calling on Zilean for Zilean. So you play the first Zilean on turn 2, Rite of Calling to draw a second Zilean while killing the first one, and then you just second Zilean on turn 3.
Okay, that's actually kind of sick.
In slower matchups, like control-y kind of stuff where you just want to accelerate your win condition, if you can turn Zilean's level into a cohesive win condition, it's better than it sounds, at least.
Yeah. No, and it's funny because the way he's built, you kind of want the first Zilean to die. If you level him up, so you play him and you're like, I want to block with things and get this thing killed because I need to get more bombs in my deck.
Yeah.
I mean, to your champion spells, look at how much it changed when they changed Lee Sin's champion spell from Dragon Rage, from a unplayable champion spell to an actually great one. It changes
exactly
so much.
So when is Maokai getting Vile Feast is my question.
Yeah. I was just thinking about Maokai. Because Maokai, I feel like Maokai might actually be fine outside of Deep in some kinds of Shadow Isles decks.
Yeah.
Maybe not anymore, but at the very least, when he was launched. But it's just his champ spell's so bad.
Yeah.
I will say, as someone who had to cast the mono Maokai 0 other win conditions deck, please don't play that deck. It will take forever.
Yeah, it's not the quickest.
Unbearably bad. It takes unbearably long to end that game. But Demacia might have 2 new ways to end a game quicker than that. Maybe that was a close.
No,
that was a stretch.
That was a stretch.
That's a big stretch.
So is this new 10-mana Cythria Lady of Clouds. 10 mana 10/10. I gotta make sure it's not a 10 mana 4/10 randomly. 10 mana 10/10 challenger. When I'm summoned, double other allies' power and health and grant them challenger. That's definitely a splashy effect, but also what if they have blockers? It also is a 10 mana spell. 10 mana Monka.
If you play this card, it's guaranteed to be in your opening hand 100% of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are at least a few funny implications with this card. I don't expect it to be competitive, but sometimes Tri-Beam gets up to 10, and this card will roll off at 20%. And that's a big upgrade for Tri-Beam's 10 mana slot because it was fighting for Scuttlegeist and Arbiter. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, there's that. And it's also a summon effect, not a play effect, which means you can do it with Spectral Matron or War Mother's Call, I guess. Don't, but you could.
Yeah, this card, I think it's a very fun effect. I think it'll be it's the same reason I've played Sejuani's Boat in a lot of decks where it doesn't belong, just for fun when you get bored. It's a cool thing, and this is something that a lot of players like to play, big splashy minions, and it'll be fun. I don't think it's good. The thing that bothers me the most is the card art. She has these skinny ass arms and she's a 10/10. I wish she was beefier in this. I'm just waiting for the next. I want the next Cythria that's a 16 mana Cythria that gets
she's
one
freaking jacked.
Yeah, she's Cythria bodybuilder of Demacia.
Well, it's she's getting more expensive and more powerful, but she's also getting older. So theoretically, like, won't the next Cythria be like a 3-mana, like
Baker
Cythria,
of cookies.
Cythria grandmother, Granny
Cythria, baker of oatmeal cookies.
I wonder what would she do? She'd be a 3. She'd be. What if they just made her Mother of Runes? She's a 1-mana 1/1.
Ooh, she gets cheaper.
I guess you can't tap. Yeah, I don't know, but we could see it. We could see Grandma Cythria, and then after that, is it like there's a Shadow Isle Cythria where she's like a
zombie? Yeah,
yeah, I like that. That's good. That's the whole progression.
I wish that this 10-mana Cythria would have been combined with this other card, Ardent Tracker, 6-mana 3/5 Scout. Ooh. When you summon an elite, reduce my cost by 1. What if they just gave Cythria Scout and also that ability? When you summon an elite, reduce my cost by 1.
Yeah.
That would be sweet. Make her 15 mana. I don't care. That would at least be cool. It's like, okay,
yeah,
I can like build around this. This is just like, okay, I have another thing. Like, is this better than Vanguard? The 9-mana 9/9
Bright Steel Formation.
Yeah, Bright Steel Formation. Is this better than that?
No,
probably
not.
Like from
it's not.
It does.
Is it better than other Cythria? Like, no.
Yeah, that's true.
Is she better than herself?
Well, like,
no, not really.
That's funny. Well, I mean, for like power per mana, she's definitely worse than 6-mana Cythria. But is she even better? Is this effect even more powerful than giving everything +1/+1 and fearsome? I don't actually know that it is.
Usually your fearsome's turning into unblockable in certain cases.
Right.
So,
interesting. But back to Ardent Tracker. I mean, is there a world where we're jamming elites and we have a 3/5?
Nope. No. Elites are they're gonna need a lot more help than this.
Yeah. It's cute. I feel like its stats could be better, but I don't know, it's just very generic and mediocre.
Yeah. Well, let's see. If you have this in your opening hand, you go turn 1 1-drop, turn 2 2 1-drops, and then turn 3 it would cost 3. That's like the best case scenario, and a 3-mana 3/5 Scout is it's a fine card, right? Or I guess you could play 3 more 1-drops and then play
there
this
you
for
go.
0. Okay. So you have 6 1-drop hand.
There's only one 1-drop elite, right? It's just Cythria.
Oh, you're right, because the 2/2 triggers off
Isn't
of
an elite.
Yeah.
It's not an elite, and then
well, okay, you have to use counterfeit copies, and then you make more Cythrias.
But then you don't have it. But then you don't have the mana. So I guess the real problem is like this.
Swim's dying on the inside. The counterfeit Cythria deck. Let's go.
No, if we're gonna be using counterfeit copies, we're gonna be using them on Korean sump workers. Shirian. I have no idea.
I've been saying Chirian, but I don't know.
I like to say it every way in the same sentence, because then people get really mad no matter what.
Kyrian sounds cool.
Kyrian does kind of sound cool. I don't know.
So before we talk about what the card does, this is a discussion that needs to happen, because we had like a 2-hour discussion on this today. What are these? Because they're not Yordles.
Are you sure they're not Yordles?
Yes, because we looked into it and they have too many fingers to be a Yordle. Yordles specifically need to have 4 fingers.
Okay.
These have 5 fingers, so they're not Yordles. They look like bat people. What are they? They're cool. Just wanted to plant that.
They're Kyrians.
It's just really cool.
Oh, okay. Multiple people in chat are saying Bat Vastaya. Those words barely mean anything to me.
Yeah. The Vastaya are like the animal people, right? They're like Aries of Vastaya, right?
Oh, okay.
They're the furries.
Okay, they're the furries. So these are like
they're the bat furries.
These are like Chempunk furry gang. This card's becoming more and more terrifying the more I'm
Chempunk furry gang.
Chempunk furry. Anyhow, it is a 2-mana 1/2 elusive. When you summon another Kyrian Sump Worker, obliterate me and transform allied Kyrian Sump Workers everywhere into Sumpwork Posses. And Sumpwork Posse is a 2-mana 4/2 elusive attack, deal 1 to enemies and the enemy nexus. Is it just me, or is this the best card we've seen so far? Like,
it probably won't end up the most competitive, but it's not bad. It's so this is a weird card. You have to read it like a couple of times at first. Like it's just
there's a lot.
So it's the second time you play it, the second one you play, the first one gets obliterated and you get the upgraded version, right? And then the third time you play it, it's just the upgraded version.
Yeah.
Right.
So to be able to get good payoff out of this card, you need to play it 3 times to get Posse twice. And I think it's around the third time you play this card where it starts to pay off. Like the second Posse being worth like 3 2-drops roughly. And that will definitely be pretty tricky, but where this card might be pretty scary is Shadow Isles with Stalking Shadows and Fading Memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Fading Memories is interesting. You'd have to play it pretty aggressively though, right? Because if you it doesn't work the way you want it to with the first Fading Memories, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The real one will get obliterated, and then you'll have the ephemeral Sumpworks Posse, which will die, so you'll end up with nothing, right?
So what's really interesting is we don't know for sure.
True.
In Runeterra, there's 2 kinds of transform effects.
Okay.
And this is like a weird hidden rule. But basically, if a unit transforms itself, it keeps all modifiers.
Okay.
Any buffs in any way. If a unit gets transformed by another card or another unit, it's a reset. So like Mystifying Magician, for example, completely resets all modifiers. And the devs' reasoning behind this, they were saying because they wanted like the self-transform to be analogous to a champion level up. And of course, champion levels up, it keeps modifiers. So what that means is if we're reading this word for word and we're trusting the wording, it is this Kyrian Sump Worker that is going to transform the second one you play. And if that ends up being how it mechanically works, it will lose modifiers, which means you would be able to use it with Fading Memories and lose the ephemeral. In theory. But
right. If that's the case, then all of a sudden, this looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Well,
I've asked one of the devs. We might get a reply back, but this is a really, really interesting mechanic that will kind of make or break this card a little bit.
We already have iterative improvement, right? Obviously you're investing in more mana, but that is it's sort of there. I guess it's really going to depend because like you're not a competitive deck will likely not be like, okay, you're going all in on specifically Kyrian Sump Worker and like everything in your deck is based around that, and that's the only win condition.
Yeah.
It'll be like, are you playing PNZ Shadow Isles like Burn, or are you playing like PNZ Ionia Elusives or something like that? Or Targon or whatever. I don't know. So definitely could be interesting.
Yeah. It's an interesting card.
The best build will probably be just like aggro Shadow Isles PNZ would be my bet. It's exactly like you mentioned. You don't want to build your entire deck around this one specific concept. I like to talk about like good deck building being kind of like, a web of interconnected nodes. Like your cards don't all want to work with a specific concept. Your side cards want to work with other side cards, to build a nice structural deck. And I think because of that, a good example of that in this case is the linchpin of this deck would low-key be probably Stygian Onlooker. Because Onlooker fits into the aggro game plan, the speed, it's a justifying card for like Stalking Shadows combos and Fading Memories combos. You'll get a lot of early chip damage in with it. So like that would be something that ties the deck together and helps like flesh out those hands.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about this card. I mean, you're basically creating misfortune, right? You're creating You're creating a non-champion version of unleveled up misfortune, which is certainly, I mean, yes, it costs you 2 cards to do it, but even like a 2-mana 1/2 elusive is definitely not playable, but like it's kind of almost close, depending on the deck. But
yeah, how many people have you had pop around and be like, oh my god, they printed a 2-mana 4/2 elusive power creep? Had so many of those today. I'm like, no, calm down. Read how it works.
I saw
read
a
how it
couple
works.
of people do that. It's like, why would I even play the first one? It's like,
Yeah.
Although,
Yeah, just play the second one first.
Yeah,
It's much better. If you
Why would I-
elusive.
Yeah. Although for what it's worth, the first time I saw the treasure cards, I thought they were cards you could put in your deck, and I'm like,
And
they
what was
they weren't going to do power creep, but is this not 24 power for 5 mana?
Yeah. What was it when they showed I forgot the stupid name. It's the guy that gives all of your big dudes overwhelm as like an aura effect. He's transformed into it.
Oh yeah.
People were like freaking out about that too. I remember that.
Yeah, because they showed the transformed version first.
Yeah.
Right.
It was so weird.
We're like, wait, hold on. This card seems okay. I do. So my favorite part about the Kyrian Sumpworks man's guy that we're talking about is Swim asked developers about the transform effect and like how it works if it keeps the buffs and whatnot. I'm over here asking the developers why Fizz has 3 fingers and is a Yordle. That's the thing I did today. I'm like, hey, can I get confirmation of why Fizz is a Yordle and has 3 fingers? Because I'm on the wiki and they're talking about Yordles needing to have 4 fingers.
We need these are the answers we need.
But seriously,
I
it's
don't
important.
know that we can move on without these answers.
Probably not.
Isn't there's like a whole thing where like Yordles only present themselves with like a disguise, and like very few people have ever seen what a Yordle really looks like?
I don't know.
There's something there's something there. I've seen it before. Might have been retconned. I don't know. Anyway,
Speaking of a great disguise, let's talk about Adaptron 3000 and his sweet mustache.
Oh my god, I didn't realize he had a wait.
Yeah, he's got
It's
like a little
Heimerdinger.
Heimer. Yeah, it's a little Heimerdinger.
Oh,
Yep.
I didn't realize what it was.
It's
I just looked at it. I
adorable.
thought he was like a bowl of French fries.
It did look like, I'm like, oh, it's the McDonald's card. Dick.
But
So
yes.
it's the 1 mana 1/3 Piltover and Zon. It's a tech. It's got the tech tag on it, and it's when you summon a tech, we share keywords. Cute.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting. And techs
Yeah.
are currently the only units with a tech tag on them are Heimerdinger's turrets,
Yes.
which can be summoned by Heimerdinger or Production Surge.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, the sharing keywords mechanic is pretty interesting. Basically, it'll end up being, like the first Production Surge, Heimer Tech unit, whatever you summon, will just give its keyword to Adaptron.
Mhm.
The second one you summon, Adaptron will take its keyword and then give it the first one's keyword. The third one you summon will take the 2 keywords so far and give it the third one. So it's not like give it all. It doesn't give all of your text,
Right.
all of each
Yeah.
other's keywords, but the last one gets them all, and
Mhm.
they get more and more as you play more and more. It's kind of weird.
That is interesting. My question is does this card help a Heimerdinger deck in any way that it needed? Is it providing anything that the Heimer deck, like, does this push Heimerdinger into a place where we're playing it again? I mean, it's seen fringe play.
No.
But, yeah.
No. That's going to be a no from me, chap.
It's cool. I'm not seeing it.
Honestly, the thing about Adaptron, I mean, I don't think it'll make competitive decks. Like, I mean, most cards don't.
Mhm.
But it's got a really good body. Like a 1 mana 1/3 stat line, we actually haven't seen before in Runeterra, and it does a really
Interesting.
good job at stopping aggro.
Yeah, it does do that. And I guess, I mean, I wish that this did something with spells, because that's just inherent to Heimerdinger, right? Like,
Yeah.
you need the fuel for Heimerdinger. It's funny because this with Heimerdinger alone does nothing, right? It doesn't actually, like,
Yeah.
Heimerdinger needs to create bots
Mhm.
to do it, but interesting.
It's cool though. I don't think it's good, but I think it's really cool. Like it's interesting and
Mhm.
fun, and it does have a mustache, so there's that.
It's very cool art, and I like these cards that, like, a lot of times they do this with epics where it's like it's got a unique-ish effect, and it's like, well, we can just forget about this for X number of sets. And then all of a sudden you look back, it's like, oh, Ren Shadowblade is going to be the catalyst for this new deck because these other supporting cards came out.
Yeah.
Maybe Adaptotron, maybe Tex will get their own set at some point, and we'll see more just like playable
I think
Tex.
this one's like a little bit underrated. I mean, like I said, I don't know if it'll hit competitive decks, but it's actually probably like above average. You know, it's not like one of the bad ones.
Yeah.
Like even without Heimer, it's a 1 mana 1/3 that can sometimes pick up of buffs off of like Production Surge.
Yeah.
Like, okay, imagine this. Like, you know, obviously not amazing, but you play Adaptron on turn 1, and then on turn 2, you play Production Surge, pulling the tough attack costing 2 mana, right? And that'll give Adaptron tough. And then you play a second Production Surge on the same turn, 0 mana, Challenger. So now Adaptron is a 1/3 Challenger tough.
Okay.
And you've given your 0/1 Challenger tough as well for free. And like, I don't know, it does have some cute curves, you know? That's all I'll say about it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing it. It really it can definitely fill a void for PNZ that it doesn't get from some other regions, right? Like, yes, you've got like Eye of the Dragon if you're going Ionia, but we haven't seen. I mean, there are other there are definitely other regions that we haven't really seen PNZ dip into, at least not that type of deck, which is cool. Okay, enough about you, Adaptotron, and your fantastic mustache and French fry hair. Let's move on to actually another fantastic mustache. The Incisive Tactician, 8 mana, 4/5 in Noxus. Reputation, I cost 6. When I'm summoned, rally. So we're seeing
What does incisive mean?
I have no idea.
That's not a word you really see.
That's true, because I was thinking like, oh, he's just very direct, but that's a decisive.
It is.
Yeah, exactly.
A person intelligently analytical and clear thinking.
Okay. So he's like a good tactician. Do you think?
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the full art of this card. Do you think he's playing TFT in the expanded art? Like he is.
I sure hope so.
He's playing TFT set 5. I mean, this is another rally effect in Noxus, which is sort of like I don't even know if tertiary is far enough down the line, but like a tertiary or whatever.
Quadrary.
Quadrary. Quintinary. I don't know. Making up words here. Like
no, it's perfect. Incisive's made up, so who cares?
Is there ever a world where this is like the top end to anything?
Nope. Not a chance.
Oh no, it is summon. So 8 mana Tri-Beam getting a buff.
True. Yeah. 8 mana Tri-Beam can sometimes
play this. What is it? Go get it. You just keep. Isn't that the one where you recall it and make it copy?
Yeah.
Perfect. True. That's going to be a totally viable deck.
Also, imagine playing this card over Captain Ferret. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's a yikes. For sure. But I mean, he does have a fantastic mustache, which I thoroughly appreciate.
And really spiky shoulders.
Really spiky shoulders, and by my estimation, is playing TFT off of. He looks
like Dr. Eggman from Sonic.
Dr. Eggman from Sonic
does a little
mixed with the Road Warriors, the like 90s era WWF wrestlers. Anyone remember Hawk and Animal? Anybody? No, only me. Okay, got it. Anyway,
I think the biggest problem with Incisive Tactician, because a lot of people have suggested that in some kinds of decks he could actually maybe see some splashing over Shumpo, and Shumpo is seeing play right now. The biggest problem with that though is that I think that people are underestimating how important it is for your rally effects to be attached to spell mana. For rally to be good, it needs to be on a developed board, and you definitely don't want to have like multiple rallies. Like you don't want to be like stacking rallies on rallies. You just want like one good rally and a fully developed board after all your mana is consumed, and for that you need basically all your unit mana to be going to developing the board. And I think that's a large part of the reason why cards like Sitch's Courier and even arguably Tiana Crown Guard have been a lot worse than they might have seemed at first.
Yeah, it's also like it's such a big mana investment for the rally where sometimes you want to pre-develop and then attack and then rally. Whereas like now with Incisive Tactician, even if you have Reputation, which at least thus far has kind of proven to be, I think, easier than people initially thought, but still pretty tough to get.
Yeah.
A 6 mana, like, you have to bank at least, you need to hold back at least 6 mana and like probably open attack and then play Incisive, and he's still kind of, I mean, he at least is as strong as a Bull Elnuck, which is nice, but
I think the other thing, like I really dislike about the card is he doesn't have 5 attack.
Yes.
And for the reputation cards, it's a kind of a flavor fail to me. Like 8 mana without, he doesn't even have 5 attack, so he's not even helping you get reputation if you don't have it yet.
It's like the Gristlebrand thing where it's a 7/7, or it's a 7/7, pay 7 life, draw 7 cards, but it costs 8, and this is like, this irks me. It's like, oh, this card has reputation, reacts with reputation, and only has 4 attack.
Yep.
I think the reasoning behind that is almost certainly because of LeBlanc's Mimic. Because this is a summon effect, they were scared of using Mimic on this. Which, I mean, I wouldn't have minded, because obviously that's a really fringe thing to even happen, but
and it would be sweet if it did. Like, you'd feel like the smartest person on the planet.
Right. So I don't really think it was necessary to neuter that specific synergy. Like,
yeah, I'm
fine
with it not being with it being 5 power. Buff it, pre-buff it, please.
Dice to Reckoning. So funny.
It's true. Wow. Which I guess that kind of flavorfully makes sense because he's a tactician. He's not a fighter.
Yeah.
Anyway. True. The other Noxus card that we have is Thrashing Snapper, a 1-mana 2/1. When an enemy blocks me, give me +3/+0 this round.
This card is Thrash.
I see what you did there.
No good?
Well, okay. I will say it's probably on a similar level to Adaptron, where it's like it is better than some of like the actual unplayables. Like, I don't think I'd call Thrashing Snapper unplayable, but it's gonna be tricky to fit in, right? It's something that can generate reputation triggers, which is really nice. But reputation, like, this can only really help your reputation when your opponent like blocks it and allows that to happen. But also, reputation decks really don't mind banking mana in the early positions of the game. Usually these are decks that have a lot of like spell tricks they want to be executing in the mid game,
right?
And they're perfectly happy to bank that 1 mana and don't really need a 1-drop.
Yeah. What I think from a power level perspective, like, this is fine. My head kind of goes to like Riven, where it's like, okay, you can give it Overwhelm pretty easily, you can give it Quick Attack, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, but also they can just not block it, right? So
yeah, exactly.
What's really disconcerting to me is like, why is this card an epic? Like,
that is bizarre on every account.
Yeah, because like, it's not broken or overpowered in like Expedition, so that part wouldn't make sense. But like, when we were talking about Adaptron, it's like, oh, these epics are these like unique, crazy things that we can look back in 3 sets and be like, oh, let's look back at this card. This is just like for lack of a better term, this is like a French vanilla card. Where it's kind of just like a vanilla card. It's just like a vanilla card that sometimes gets stronger when it gets blocked. There's no additional nuance or ability to it.
Yeah, it's such a hard card to evaluate. Like, I think it's a decent card. I can't see it being like super amazing, but like it's a lot of times helping you with your reputation, but a lot of times it's not. Usually, like, it's just gonna be a 1-mana 2/1 that gets some chip damage in. It's interesting. It is kind of a flavor win, though. It's the captured scaled snapper from Ionia that Noxus is like turned into this war beast, which is kind of cool. It's like very sad art. He's like chained up.
I didn't even notice that was a scaled snapper. That's cute.
I saw that on Reddit. It's cute. It's cute.
Oh,
that
really?
This beast is being enslaved.
Yeah, it's fine. He knows what he did.
I have so this is gonna be a weird hot take.
Let's hear it.
I think this card could be a 1-mana 2/2. I think that it would sound a little bit strong, but the thing is, Noxus aggro decks wouldn't really have a lot of reason to run a 1-mana 2/2. Noxus aggro is like, Noxus already has like all the good 1-drops. That's kind of their region identity, right? So in the aggro versions, like non-reputations versions, this still wouldn't see the cut, even if it was a 1-mana 2/2. It wouldn't see the cut over, other aggro options that are going to be dealing more damage to face. And in addition, I mean, it's a flavor win if it's a 1/2/2, because then it's literally the Snapper stat line. It's a 5/2.
True.
And a big flavor win.
Wow.
Huge flavor win.
And then
And
it's
it just wouldn't be too strong in any kind of deck.
Yeah. And like it's good in like the Ash style Noxus decks where you can, give Frostbite and this happens more than once, blah blah blah. But the thing is, it's like the thing I always talk about with deck building is, sure, you could fit it into that deck, but what do you take out from that deck to fit in a 1-mana 2/1? And the thing is probably nothing.
So here's the thing. Like 1-drops kind of suck in Runeterra, and I think a lot of players actually kind of like don't are maybe even underestimate the degree to which that is. Like, so you guys are old school players like myself. You remember a time when Omen Hawk was roaming the lands, and that was a pretty good card. I was thinking about Omen Hawk recently, and Omen Hawk's quite a bit worse these days. I mean, people aren't running it in Ash, and it's only seeing play in some kinds of overwhelmed decks.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think there's a few reasons for that, but it's less about, it's not even really about that, the fact that stats don't really matter anymore. It's more about the fact that back in OG Runeterra, in Foundations patch, there wasn't a lot of reason to bank mana for early tempo swings. To be able to bank spell mana, you need to be able to capitalize it on the power turns, like turn 3, 4, maybe 5. If you're not using your spell mana before then, it's just kind of useless. And back then, there were no good combat tricks. Now we've got good combat tricks.
True.
Yeah.
Like literally, Twin Disciplines was the best combat trick back then.
That is true.
It was like a 3 of.
And suddenly, now that we have good combat tricks, the dynamic of the game has completely changed. Because even a lot of pretty aggressive, not like aggro, but even a lot of decks that want to play semi-aggressively, like maybe Reputation, for example, aren't really looking for 1-drops. That's the thing. Because banking mana is good in those kinds of decks.
Yeah,
it's very true. Yeah, the old school Bannerman, like Uno, where it's like, oh, I see a 1, I play a 1. I see I have 2 mana, I play 2.
Exactly.
Those decks don't really exist to the same extent that they did, or they're not as good, or like you are behind if you're playing like that. It's a really good point.
No, it's true, because like a lot of those decks, like you don't want to play anything on turn 1 because you need your troll chant mana, you need all of that for turn 2. So.
I have hope for this card only because it is an epic, and that maybe that will get lumped into some of the like epic reworks that they look to do.
True.
Once in a while, so maybe we'll get. I mean, you think about remember old Precious Pet, the like 1 mana. It was still a 1 mana 2/1, I think.
Yep.
And the next time your opponent played a unit, it was stunned. Like really awkward. Like we could see something crazy like that with Thrashing Snapper. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, I wasn't expecting us to talk this much about Thrashing Snapper. One of the least interesting cards in the set. But I do think that this next card is very interesting for a few reasons. We're moving into Bilgewater now with Bone Skewer, 2 mana fast speed spell. An ally strikes an enemy, then moves to the top of your deck. This one's saying a lot of things that I like to see. It's like
it's all right.
I think it's cool. Like I think I like the flexibility of it. Like I think it's really cool.
I can tell Saucy and I have the same feeling about this card.
Yeah, like this allows you to do a lot of things. The very first thing I thought of was, oh, this lets me play Yordle Grifter again.
Oh my god.
Yeah, seriously though, like because he fixes your allegiance. In for like if you want to play a bunch of cool enter the battlefield effects, like that's cool. It's interesting. They always give Bilgewater this weird conditional like shitty removal, and it's like it's very strange the way that it works. And I think you can do a lot of cool stuff with it. I don't know if it's like great, but I think it's really cool, and I want to build a lot of stupid things with this.
I think the best comparison to this card, bar none, is Homecoming, and it should be used in pretty much the same way as well.
Okay.
When you compare it to Homecoming, obviously Homecoming is Ionia and it's 4 mana, but in terms of like the mechanical impact, Homecoming sends it to their hand, but you also get it in your hands. This one, neither player gets the card in their hands because presumably their enemy is dying to this card.
Yeah.
And yours is going to the top of your deck, which is, it's kind of better than dying, but it's interfering with your own draw sometimes, which can matter. So it's effectively neutral. The only question is like, what kind of Bilgewater deck would benefit from this kind of thing? I could see it being around in deep. It's really interesting.
That's what I was thinking is like you can rebuy some of your. I mean, there's a good amount of cards that this would benefit from. I mean, Jaw Hunters is fine with this.
Yeah, Jaw is great.
Obviously, the
3/2 lifesteal guy is really good.
3/2 lifesteal guy is that's actually a pretty big potential like life swing because you can block and strike with this, gain the life, prevent the damage, so you can do
and
that.
Toss more.
And toss more as well, and then of course the not Terror of the Tides, the obliterate Edie Fish, that one.
Edie Fish, yeah, it's good with Edie Fish.
Those. And like it can be used like Homecoming in the sense that you can save your unit. I mean, it costs 2 mana, which is nice. So
it's great, yeah.
I like that part. It's also a strike an enemy, not they strike each other. So unlike single combat, yes, going to the top of your deck is certainly something that you would need to prepare. It's not just like you can run this like single combat where you run it in kind of everything. But I don't know. I definitely think that there's some potential power here.
More shipwreck quarters. That's all that matters.
True.
Give me more treasures.
That is very true. The one piece of like flavor fail here is that like a bone skewer is something that you would like use to like hunt a sea monster with, presumably, right? But you can use this on sea monsters. So like I don't know if I'm seeing the flavor. I'm missing the flavor here with the bone skewer. But anyways, I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting. I'm curious to see. I could see it in deep. I wonder if there's going to be any other Bilgewater decks that play this. Also,
I think this card's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's good.
I don't know if like it would hit a deck right away, but it is like on the competitive level.
Yeah, I wonder because this would work with give you Swain damage, right?
Oh yeah, strikes count for it.
Interesting. Maybe we see some TF Swain or Swain plus Bilgewater. Who knows?
And I think it works really well that it's specifically in Bilgewater too, because they are hungry for good removal.
And speaking of good removal in Bilgewater,
Swim's getting it. Yeah.
No. We got the flow down.
We've established this link. We're now compatible.
I think this might be the best name of the set potentially. Monster Harpoon. 6 mana fast speed spell in Bilgewater. Deal 5 to a unit. Plunder. I cost 3 less.
Oh, I love this card.
Yeah?
I think this card's pretty good. Yep. I think it's actually I mean it's a little bit meta dependent.
Sure.
I think I know for a fact, like, you know, when I was looking at this card for the first time on my stream today, everyone in chat was just like not feeling it. There were a lot of yucks. I think this card is actually being a bit underrated.
Yeah.
For the most part, like Bilgewater having like access to a decent fast speed removal is nice. A lot of people are comparing this to Blackspear, of course. I don't really like cross-region comparisons in general because, I mean, Bilgewater kind of needs mid-game removal, and Monster Harpoon is that. But the other big flaw with that comparison is Blackspear requires the condition of a unit dying. And I think a lot of people look at this and they're like, well, but it's a different condition. But, like, the thing is, Blackspear doesn't work when they open attack, when you don't have a death trigger.
Right.
Like, that's a big weakness of the card. Monster Harpoon, sometimes you have to pay a bit more mana, but it's not the same as not being able to use it at all.
Right.
Like, it's functionally very, very different and a lot harder to brick than Blackspear.
Well, and also late game, if you have 10 mana and you top deck this, paying 6 mana or paying 3 mana is the same amount of mana, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Blackspear can just literally be a blank card sometimes.
Yeah, and five is a lot of damage.
Yeah. Yeah, think about it like I mean, you compare it to like Grasp of the Undying or something. There's a decent amount of metas that just being able to deal 5 is a pretty unique breakpoint.
Mm-hmm. And it notably says to a unit, which means you can hit your own units if you really wanted to. And B does not say follower, which is nice.
Yes.
Sometimes these types of cards do. So we can hit
Zoe.
champions. We can hit Zoe with a monster harpoon.
Yep.
Oh god.
But
right.
so
Zoe.
the thing I love about Monster Harpoon, and that's like just super, super important to understand, because I see so many people doing these like region comparisons. Like everyone's like just looking at cards in a vacuum instead of comparing them between regions.
Right.
Because different cards are going to be completely different in different regions. But like Monster Harpoon, when you take a deck like Gangplank Sejuani, right? Like pretty much like the NAB Gangplank Sejuani with like Black Market Merchant, like old school.
Mm-hmm.
It's effectively a mid-range deck, right? You're chipping them down, trying to accelerate your game plan, and playing a little bit flexibly. But Bilgewater and Freljord don't really have access to disruption tools, right?
Yeah.
So like Monster Harpoon is perfect for that, because you're going to be triggering plungers, of course, because it's Gangplank Sejuani, and suddenly you have an actual disruption tool. Not just like, when I say disruption tool, I mean something that can respond to the stack, which Freeze can only sometimes do. It's it's not about being able to stop an opponent threat. It's about disrupting their action, right? It's really valuable for that deck to have.
It's really good with Gangplank because you can kill something that you're attacking with Overwhelm.
Ooh,
true.
Very true. Same with Bone Skewer, though. You wouldn't use Bone Skewer on the Gangplank. That wouldn't work, but you can still...
Yeah, skewers something else.
Might be seeing some more GP, which would be interesting. Okay, we have technically 3 more cards. I want to talk about these Freljord cards first, and then we'll end on the Shadow Isles card, because I think
actually real quick, while we're still on the Bilgewater ones, I do want to one more theory, because I love my theories.
Yeah.
So we're not getting Pike this time around. Pike's gonna be 2 months from now, but I think these cards are maybe slight clues in terms of what Pike might do, because of course they're both kind of Pike cards. We do know from League of Legends, Pike wants to slay champions in League, and you get a reward. You get like the bounty when you do, right? He has low. So I'm guessing Pike in Runeterra, he might do something with vulnerable, but overall his main thing will be killing enemy champions, or maybe it's units. It might be specific to champions, but something along the lines of when you kill an enemy unit, maybe above a certain amount of health, or an enemy champion, maybe it has to be Pike striking, but it's something when you kill an enemy, shuffle a lost treasure into your deck would be a really, really cool way of translating the bounty effect, and it would be really fitting.
That is interesting. Actually,
you had me at treasure.
Treasures. Yeah, I mean, I'm in. I have another theory.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
So instead of, I like the concept. It's kills units get or kills champions get a reward. Let's keep the, when he kills a follower, you shuffle the lost treasure. If he kills a champion, you get 500 LOR coins. And boy, oh boy, did Pike kill 5 champions, because at the end of this episode live, we're going to be giving away 5 bundles of 500 LOR coins. There we go. I tied it back.
That was smooth. It was smooth.
Real smooth, dude.
Smooth. That was the professional right there.
Blevins practices these like all day.
No,
He sits around and is like, "Can I get this?"
I don't practice, but literally all of the joy in my life comes from debating chat. And that's it.
It's so easy to do too.
It's really I love to a lot like Pike. Actually, maybe not like Pike, but I like to cast the lure and just wait for people to bite, and you get that nibble, and then you reel them in.
Oh yeah,
that's all I like to do. Anyways, we've got 2 Freljord cards, and then 1 more Shadow Isles card. Which is kind of like more than 1 Shadow Isles card. But anyway, we'll end on the SI card. But let's talk about Buried in Ice. 9 mana, slow spell. Obliterate each enemy to summon a frozen tomb in its place.
And Frozen Tombs are the landmarks. It's going to come back two turns later at the start of the next. I mean, presumably you'll be using this on your opponent's attack turn usually, and they'll all come back at the start of their next attack turn.
Right. This card seems bad. It's the word I think I'm looking for. I mean,
it's interesting.
It is a way to massively deal with the board, kind of.
Yep.
Kind of like a Ruination, I guess.
I think so. I like this card quite a bit. I think if you're comparing it to something like Ruination, it's not something you play. But I like this that it opens up mass removal options in regions outside of Shadow Isles.
Mm-hmm.
So like Sharima Freljord has been like a pet region of mine for a long time. I think it's very cool because you get access to Rite of Negation, Preservarium again, take a drink if you're playing the drinking game every time I say Preservarium. But I think like this just in the future allows us to play regions that aren't Shadow Isles in our Freljord control decks.
Exactly.
And for that, I like it.
I think this card is pretty scary. I think in terms of when it launches, I don't expect it to hit a competitive deck right away, but it has a pretty scary impact on the card pool, really similar to what Saucy was saying. Like, I think that, you know, we might be able to get out of Shadow Isles, and it might have some implications in like some kinds of future Freljord decks.
True.
I mean, it has a few cute combos. Probably not going to be the most competitive ways of using it, but combining it with It That Stares can be pretty nuts.
That is true.
As well as Passage Unearned is a really fun combo with this card. Now, because of course, Passage Unearned, you can use it 2 turns later when they all come back, and it'll kill all of them because they were all summoned to that turn. I want to clarify, for the most part, those are going to be meta dependent, but there are metas where It That's Theirs is good, and there are metas where Passage Unearned is good. So it just like those are just kind of like, think about it like free combos for metas when those cards happen to be good, right? Don't force them for sure.
Or unless though.
Well, and other interesting things about it is, since it does obliterate, it doesn't trigger any death effects. So if that does matter, same with Passage Unearned, like you said, that obliterates as well. So it's not going to kill any of the units. So putting things into res pools, if that matters, things dying for Thresh, whatever, like that doesn't matter as well. So if obliterating matters over, you know, killing, and it's like a one-sided board clear as well.
That's true.
I think for the most part, I looked at this card at first and I compared it to Ruination, but like the more you look at the card, the more it's just completely different. Like, even though there are of course 9 mana slow spells, because Ruination you specifically want to use when you have like 1 or 2 chump blockers or maybe no board at all, right? Because you just need to, having 1 or 2 chump blockers is nice, so they are forced to develop into the Ruination, and then you wipe them and kind of win the game. Buried in Ice, it actually kind of punishes you for having an empty board. When you have an empty board, you usually can't close the game out, which means they're going to get their units back. This is a card, I mean, it might be closer to Sky's Descent, where you want to use it in like, you know, a beefy, clogged up board kind of board state, and then you can use it offensively to just end the game. It's a really powerful, unique card. So I don't know when it'll see play, but it will have a real presence on the card pool.
Yep.
It's a very good point. And of course, you know, Riot likes to keep the epics as very powerful, unique effects, you know, like Thrashing Snapper that gets +3/+0 sometimes. Anyway, we've got the other Freljord card here. Succumb to the Cold, 4-mana burst spell, frostbite an enemy, summon a frozen thrall. When I first read this, I'm like, wait, it gives you an 8/8 overwhelm, and then I'm like, oh no, it gives you the landmark. I'm like, this is more expensive than Flash Freeze, and also fills your board with a card that you don't want in play a lot of the time.
Yep.
I'm not feeling this one.
This card is dog poop. It's the thing about Succumb to the Cold, and I talked about this, which is that even in a Frozen Thrall deck, you wouldn't run this card. The reason behind that is that this card is just kind of like, the timing of this card is all wrong, is the best way to explain it. Like, even in a Frozen Thrall deck, you want to be playing Frozen Thralls in the early turns of the game, but this card is one that if you want to play it for the Thrall, it's going to force you to play it earlier and proactively. You know, Frostbite wants to be played later and reactively, and it's just like a complete mismatch. Like, you're not going to want to be forced to Frostbite for 4 mana on turn 3 just to get Thrall out fast enough.
Yeah. You're not wanting to have to Frostbite their 2-drop. You're wanting to have to hit their like Nasus.
Yep.
Yeah. I wonder if there's ever like a Magic had a lot of cards like this where it's like, you know, gigantic statted card, sometimes has an ability and is really cheap, but every turn you have to sacrifice something to it. Maybe there's a card that like eats landmarks, and if it can't eat a landmark, you have to like sacrifice it or whatever, or you lose 5 life or something like crazy.
Yep.
And this is just, you're just feeding it to that. But that still feels like, even if that were a card and this was like the inherent combo to it, it still feels like that's a bit of a flavor fail. But we'll see. Maybe there's a deck that really just wants Frozen Thralls or just wants landmarks in play regardless of their actual abilities or not. We'll see. But the last card to talk about here for this podcast is going to be the Shadow Isles card here, the Wings and the Wave, which is a 1-mana 0/1 epic Shadow Isles unit play, and you play it as either the first wave or the last wing. The first wave is when I'm summoned, summon a prey. The last wind is a 3/3 to play me, kill an ally. So kind of like Ravenous Butcher. This card actually seems pretty insane, especially considering that Thresh Nasus is one of the top tier decks right now.
Yeah.
This feels like the perfect card for that deck.
Pretty much. It's a pretty solid card. I don't think it'll be making 3-ofs in refined versions of Thresh Nasus. It's probably like a locked-in 2-of, though. The reason being is, you know, it provides a lot of flexibility to that deck. And, you know, it's like you said, the last wind is kind of like a Ravenous Butcher. And of course, you know, the first wave is sort of like a fading icon. So they're both a little bit worse than those individual components, though, because, you know, last wind is like a Butcher that costs 1 mana, which isn't great because usually Butcher's good because it costs 0. And the first wave is like fading icon, but it's just 2 0/1s, which isn't necessarily going to help with a lot.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of reminds me of like Three Sisters, where you're like paying an extra mana for the tax, but you get the flexibility.
That's a great comparison. Yeah, I love that. I think something that's important in deck building theory that I think a lot of people underrate is that cards that have a certain amount of flexibility inherently, you don't usually want to double draw. These are cards that have pretty big diminishing returns to double draw because you're paying for the flexibility that has diminishing returns, right? You want to balance in your hand between value and flexibility. So Spacey Sketcher, Three Sisters is a great one. These are cards that you often might run at lower ratios because you don't want to double draw them.
What I will say is, at first glance, I thought this was absolutely busted. I think thinking about it more in Thresh Nasus specifically, now that maybe there's another deck that this is even better in, I don't know. But that deck relies so heavily on tempo, right? You get ahead, you build this insane board, you keep trading in your favor, and then you can, even if you start to fall behind, you can maybe finish the game with a Nasus, a gigantic Nasus after you've done all these favorable trades, or just kill them outright because you had a really aggressive draw. This card definitely helps do that same thing that it's already doing, and arguably maybe makes it more consistent, maybe. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't shore up any of the issues with that deck. Like, this does not help you. This is not a card that you want to top deck when you are out of cards and you've ran out of steam. This does nothing for that. Which, I mean, the deck is still going to be great, and this will probably help make the deck better, but it doesn't actually, like, this isn't like there's a third option that it 1 mana
draw 2 cards.
Yeah, sacrifice me and draw 2 cards. That would be insane.
Right.
So yeah, I think it, like you said, probably a solid 2-of, and will replace, you know, a couple of copies of some of the meta dependent cards maybe. But I agree, definitely not a 3-of.
Yeah, I like it though. The card is really good. I just love flexibility in cards. So I dig it. I think it's a really good, solid card.
The last thing I'll say about it is I mentioned before I'm not a lore master, but I have read some of the lore, and I'm pretty sure that this card is supposed to be like the Ionia's version of Kindred, where it's like Lamb and Wolf. This is Wind and Wave, Wings and Wave. I'm pretty sure that's what this is supposed to represent, because like each region has its own like concept of life and death, and I think that's what this is. But someone who's more up on the lore would know more than me. But I'm pretty sure that's what this is, which is kind of cool from a lore perspective. Chad is saying I'm close, so I'll take it. But
hey, close is better than you're just out of like full of shit. Like nothing you're saying makes any sense.
Chat close probably means it's more correct than it could ever I could ever imagine being. But that is all of the cards that have been currently officially released, and I've got a thing here. We're gonna actually, and I can't believe that. Dumb gag. Sorry, I don't actually.
All of the unreleased cards. It's okay. I spoiled Talia today, so Talia's coming to the game.
We're not talking about Irelia on this show? That's not this episode?
No, well, we can. So there. And when. Okay, dumb.
There you have it.
I'm done doing it. I'm not going to do it again.
So do we want to? Anything you guys want to talk about this coming weekend before we get out of here? Something going on this weekend? You guys doing anything? What are you up to?
Plans now.
No one cares what I'm doing over the
Want to go
weekend.
let's just go get some pizza and hang out, I guess. I didn't know you guys were free.
Hanging out with real people in the year 2021. Imagine.
Digital pizza.
Yeah, no, of course we jest, but Swim and I will be on the broadcast for the seasonal, which is going to be really cool. And again, huge shout outs to Riot for supporting the community and giving us the giveaway coins, which we're going to be doing after this episode in real time. Sorry if you're listening to this in podcast land.
No, not sorry, because it's your fault for not being here.
Not being here live. But yeah, so the road to the seasonal will come to a climax this Saturday. So yeah, definitely check that out. But Swim, thanks so much for coming on, buddy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Really, really appreciate it. The floor is yours. You can sell out, shout out, plug, whatever you would like.
They know where to find me.
It's a Pizza Hut, right?
Oh my God,
I wish, dude.
All right. Here's the promise. Two things need to be the case. There needs to not be a global pandemic, or at least it not be actively dangerous to meet with other people. And also, Pizza Hut has to not have gone out of business. But if neither of those two things are true, then we'll have an LOR pizza party at Pizza Hut. But you have to bring your report card, because if you didn't get good grades, you can't come.
Oh, you can't get it. You can find Swim hanging out getting beat in Scriblio, in Scriblio tournaments.
Yikers! But thank you again, Swim, for coming on and having a little bit of fun with us.
I know we need to do this more than once a year. I feel like.
Yeah, let's make it a. Is it a biannual?
Biannually
would be. Isn't that once every 2 years?
Well, it can. I think it can be either. It can be twice a year or once every 2 years.
That's so confusing.
English sucks as a language.
You need to be more incisive about. Nope, that's not. Well, actually, that would.
Semi-annual. I think semi-annual is correct, isn't it? Let's do this. What? Honestly, these are fun. We should do this like tri-annually.
Okay.
Trannually.
Trannually. We'll do
That's
this.
not a word.
We'll do this trannually. Ooh, I don't know. Anyway, we'll do this more often than we have in the future. We're ramping up. It'll be a exponential curve. Eventually, we'll be doing this twice a day on the radio.
Shit.
Anyway, Saucy, where can people find you on the internet when you're not here on the podcast?
You can find me. My website's just saucy.live or saucymailman.com, and that's where you can find all the things that I get into.
Yes, and you can find me on Twitter at @the_Blevins. You can catch myself and Swim on the seasonal broadcast this Saturday. I think I really should know where it's going to be broadcast, but I'm pretty sure it's on. I think it's on the Play Runeterra.
I don't know either. I'm gonna be honest.
I'm pretty sure it's on the Play Runeterra Twitch channel, but if it's not, then it will be on Riot Games. And if it's not on either of those two things, then good luck finding it. It'll be on Twitter somewhere.
They'll tweet about it.
You can find the podcast, runeterrable.com, DeckPics.Live. You can also go there. We're always happy to see your deck picks. Please send them to us. And if you want to join the community, discord.me/Runeterrable Radio. But if you're here live watching the show, stick around. Don't go anywhere because we're going to be doing the giveaway. But if you're in podcast land, thank you all for listening and for watching. But for Saucy, for Swim, I'm Blevins, and we'll be back next week to talk about more Legends of Runeterra.